Today we're going to talk about something very, very specific, but also very, very common in every single one of our lives. Yes, today we're going to talk about money. Money is not weird. Money's not taboo. It's not something that we should avoid talking about. If anything, it's something we should avoid. It's something we should talk about more. Why? Because every single one of us are dealing with money every single day of our lives. Unless you're like a young kid, then your parents are dealing with the money. But the reality is the world that we live in, it involves money. And let's not shy away from talking about it. Let's grab the thing by the horns and let's be in control of it before we let it be in control of us. And I know especially in the church where people are like, yo, pastors shouldn't talk about money. I respectfully disagree with that statement with everything there is in my being. As a pastor, I want to help guide and direct people to live the best lives that they can be according to what God teaches us. And there's so much in the Bible about managing your money well, because if you don't control your money will control you. Why does that keep happening? I don't know why that keeps happening, man. Rip the dream. Also rip the YouTube video. Let me try to fix that real quick, and then I'm going to try to figure out a little bit later why that keeps happening. I'm not sure. But one of the things we got to talk about, guys, is if we're going to say that we really are doing life together, then we have to talk about money. Money is one of those things that people always avoid talking about. No one wants to discuss it. But the reality is, if we're going to be a community that does life together, then that's going to involve money. Why? Because our lives involve money, and community involves trust. And if we don't trust each other enough to talk about money, then do we really trust each other? Now, I'm not saying that we've got to share how much you make and how much you don't, but here's the reality. If we're a community that loves one another, when you get a raise at work, I want to celebrate it with you, man. Like, I want to be like, yo, GG, bro, like, you earned that. Like, good for you, man. I don't need to know how big the raise was. I don't need to know what percentage it was. I don't need to know how much more you... I want to be able to celebrate with you. Bro, is your name Brother on Twitch? Can we get clappers in the chat for probably the most epic Twitch name I've ever seen on Twitch.tv? Brother. It's amazing to have you in the chat, brother. God bless you. Good to have you here, my friend. And the reality is that money is something that affects all of our lives, and I want to be able to do our best as a community to help us navigate through that. Why? Because it's something that we got to learn to deal with. It's something that we have to learn in our everyday lives to navigate through. Why? Because it affects every single one of us. There is a very, very important life skill that I think every single one of us can benefit from learning, and that is the simple aspect of how to make a budget. So I've got some notes for you guys that I've prepared, some things that we're really gonna dive more so into next week, but I know you guys love when I share the notes with you and everything. But there's some links and some resources that I'm gonna share with you on how that we navigate a budget. This is something that's normally not taught in high school. It's not normally taught in college, and then you become a young adult, you get married, and we have no idea how to tell our money where to go. This is something that I had no idea when I first became an adult, and it hurt me because my money was going places that I wasn't in control of it. And the reality is, if you're not in control of your money, it's just going to run all over the place. And you're like, how am I spending this much money? And learning to make a budget is absolutely crucial. But no one ever taught me how. I had to go out and research and learn. So I want to do my best to be a resource to every single one of you. Let me get you that link in the chat right now. Some of you guys love to follow along. Let me get you that link, and then we'll jump right into this. I'm going to put some things on the screen as well for you guys to follow along. So let me get that up on the screen right for you guys. Literally, what we're going to do today is we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on this link right here. And I've done some stuff, and I've put in some numbers just to give us all just kind of a general feel of what a budget looks like. The numbers we're using today are not my personal numbers. They're not your numbers. They're just numbers that are easy to work with and numbers that are easy to just kind of navigate through. So this link right here is actually in that document. And if you didn't want to open the document, here is the link to this budget tool. This is a free tool that will give you an in-depth guide on how to create a budget for your money. It's free. It's made by a man in his company by the name of Dave Ramsey, a phenomenal financial, pretty much an expert. He created something called Financial Peace University, which is such an amazing program that I would encourage you to go through the website and look through it. But I love the name of it, Financial Peace, because Dave Ramsey says he called it Financial Peace because it's very rare that you hear about finances and peace being in the same sentence, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be the number one thing that causes divorce. Money doesn't have to be the number one thing that people fight about. We can have both financial and peace in our lives if we learn how to navigate them well. So what this right here, this is a budget. It is a dollar by dollar breakdown of what we should be expecting to do in creating our own budget. We're going to walk through this as normal individuals. It's just a normal part of life. But also, I'm going to come at it also with the perspective of a streamer and a small business owner, because as a streamer and a small business owner, you never make the same amount of money in a month. So how do you budget when you never make the same amount of money? There's some difficulties and some specifics that I want to talk about that real quick. Change Twitch room? What do you mean, Solux? Do you mean the category? I already did that. Sometimes if you don't refresh your page, it won't change. But I did that already. Let me just confirm that I did, because sometimes it does mess up. So thank you for telling me. But now it should definitely be good. Now it should definitely be good. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, what this is simply a budget maker. And literally it is all you're going to do is you're going to take this right here. I want to encourage you to use this because it's free and it's really, really efficient. And all you're going to do is you're going to type in the numbers that relate to your life. You do not need to share these numbers with anyone. This is something you're going to create your own account. No one's going to see it except for you. As I said, the numbers we're implying today are just made up random numbers. So we're going to start off real basic with just 4 paychecks a month, $1,000 each. I know for some of you, that might be way less than what you make, especially if you've got a large family. That's not going to cut it for you. But especially if you're young, this may be way more than you're making. But I just figured it'd be easy to mess with $1,000 a week, $4,000 a month, just for the sake of easy numbers. And literally all you do is you implement the numbers here. So maybe paycheck 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can do it month by month. So maybe you're like, well, some months have 5 weeks. You just add another one. Same thing, but we're going to go for ease of time. We're going to work with four paychecks in a month. But maybe for you, you make $500 a week. Maybe for you, you make $200. Whatever it is, you're just going to implement your numbers, and you're just going to keep on going down. And this is really the biggest part of a budget. Really, all it is you're giving every dollar a destination. Dave Ramsey says something that's so genius and so true, that when you give all of your dollars a destination, when you tell all your money where to go, and I can say this firsthand experience, you're going to feel like you're getting a raise, because you're going to realize that like money was going places that it shouldn't have been going. Like, do I actually really need this? Man, I spent $500 on going out to a restaurant last month. Like, I didn't need to do that. Like, I could be saving that. Though these are all stories that we're making up. Those are not true. But this is seriously going to make you feel like you're getting a raise in your income. So for ease of time and ease of numbers, let's say you make $4,000 a month. Literally, all you're going to do, you can implement, okay, how much money out of your $4,000 a month, how much money do you want to save every month? How much money do you want to add towards all these things? I deliberately added in here some mistakes that I want to talk about and some things that I want to address perfectly. One, there's some rule of thumbs that I want to encourage you to do. Out of this $4,000 a month, I would encourage you to always do your best to try and save 20% of whatever your income is. So let's get a calculator. So let's say that you make, let's say you make $1,800 a month. Maybe you're only working part-time, whatever. Maybe it's even less. Maybe you're making $1,000 a month because you're in college and you're only working a few hours a week. Can I encourage you that in that, try and save 20% of that? So what would that be? It'd be $200. Whatever it is, do your math and try to save 20%. And at first glance, some of you are like, dude, 20%? I can't afford to just put away in my savings account $20 a month. I promise you, if you go through this budgeting process well and correctly, over time, you might not be able to save 20 now, but as you make adjustments, you will reach the goal of being able to save 20% of your income a month if you follow these Dave Ramsey steps, which we're going to talk a little bit more in detail. But really, step one is creating a budget. So according to that 20% rule, this person, let's call him Ralph, okay? This is Ralph's budget. Ralph is able to save $800 a month in savings, which is great. Ralph also spends $800 on his rent. I want to park here for just a few minutes. Some of you are like, $800 a month. Like, where do you live? I can't afford that where I go. Here's the reality. There's a very, very important principle that I'm telling you will be a huge blessing to your life. When it comes to your rent and your housing, try to keep that within 30% of your income. Now, this is where it becomes the most difficult, And this is where we are confronted the most with it. Some of you are like 30% of my income has to go towards my housing. Some of you are like, no, I don't want to do that. And the reality is that we oftentimes want to live a better lifestyle than we can actually afford. A lot of the times why we're always so tight, a lot of the times why we always have no money is because our housing is so high. So if you're making $4,000 a month and you're spending $2,000 of it, I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. $2,000 of that on your housing. Why does I keep doing 20,000? There we go. 2,000 of it. 50% of your money is now gone just from your housing, and that doesn't even include the utilities. 3, 2, 1, hello. I love it, love it, love it. God bless you, my man. Thank you for 3 months support. You're an absolute legend, man. I appreciate you, dude. And look at the percentages over here. If this person here were spending $2,000 a month on their rent, you can see that their housing, utilities, cable, all kind of stuff, 62% of their monthly income has just disappeared. And you begin to realize, like, dude, he should probably cut down his income. And here's the reality. This person, I'll be honest, I grew up in New England. $800 a month is going to get you a piece of crap. I'm just going to be honest. It's going to get you a piece of crap. But here's the principle. Are we living the lives that we want or the lives that we can actually afford? Because if you go too much above this 30% rule, like, yeah, you can afford it, but you're going to be tight. You're going to be tight every month. The reality of setting up a budget is to let you feel free. Like at the end of the month where I should be like, I feel good with my finances. I got money to put away. I'm paying off college loans and so I feel good at the end of every month. When you go anywhere above that 30%, that's when you're going to start feeling tight. You're going to start feeling, because honestly, your rent is probably the single-handed biggest amount of money that you're spending on anything, right? You don't spend $800 a month on food unless you've got, a ton of kids. But, if you're a young married couple, a single guy, you're not spending $800 a month on food. You're not spending $800 a month on car insurance. You're not spending it on health insurance. You're not spending it on entertainment. You're not spending your rent and your housing probably will always be your largest single, like one item on your budget. It'll probably always be your biggest. Therefore, try to keep it to 30%, because if you don't, yes, you can go above that, but you're going to start feeling tight. No matter how much money you make, you could be a quadrupedrillionaire, but if you are living in a house that is 90% of your income, you've only got 10% left to work with, and it's not going to leave you with much. Remember, financial peace, financial wealth, financial success as an individual is not about how much you make. It's about how much you spend. I don't know why my camera keeps doing that, guys. I apologize. Now it's completely off. Are you kidding me? Why are you doing such things to me? Give me 1 second, guys. This wasn't happening last week. Now it's back on. Of course it is. Rip camera. Rip camera. We're going to program this one last time. This one might be set to auto. I do apologize for this, guys. It might be set to auto going back to loop, but it shouldn't be. I have no idea why that happened. My apologies, guys. All right. Remember that succeeding and feeling free, this is not about making a ton of money. It's about feeling good about the amount of money that you make now. And the reality is that individual financial success is not about making a ton of money. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you spend. And if you can spend the right amount, you're going to feel free, right? So try to keep that rent. That's probably the biggest topic of a budget. If you can keep that at 30%, you're going to have plenty of room. But that does mean that you might have to live somewhere that isn't exactly, what you'd want for your life. Well, I wish I could live somewhere nicer. yeah, you can live somewhere nicer, but then be stressed out 24/7 that you can't afford your life. It's not worth it. My best friend JC says something, nothing is worth your peace. Nothing is worth your peace. I don't want to sleep in a really nice bedroom, but then not be able to sleep because I can't figure out how I'm going to pay my bills, right? I don't want to walk around a nice house with nice carpet, but then figure out how I'm going to pay for it. If you can keep your rent at around, or your mortgage at around 30%, you're going to have a sigh of relief. My wife and I currently, we're inside that 30%. Man, it's so freeing. It's just so freeing to not have to just at the end of every month, like, man, if I just live somewhere smaller. Now we have our months because I'm a streamer. We'll get in that later, but the 30% is gonna be a big deal for you. And literally from there, all you do is just go down. You implement what amount of money you make, right? How much you spend on gas? 150 for some of you that commute. Maybe that's realistic for some of you. Like for me, that's a stretch. I never leave my house, right? I don't even close to spend that much money on gas a month, right? You put in your food, put in your restaurants. How many times a month do you go out to eat? Miss Kitty Ninja, God bless, girl. You do your thing. It's good to see you back, by the way. I hope you've been doing well. Oh, snap. Right? Then you just literally just go individually. This is super easy to use. I put in some gamer stuff, right? WoW subscriptions, pet care, clothing, gym membership. Maybe you want a budget. Maybe you want a budget to buy a new game every month. The reality is you can budget your money wherever you want as long as you're telling it where to go. Because when you don't tell your money where to go, it's just going to go other places. How many of you, I've done this in the past before, and even in months where I'm a little bit lazier on my budget, where I'm like, did I really spend that much on this thing last month? Did I really go out to eat 7 times and spend this much money? Oh my goodness, how did I do that? We did that because we weren't budgeting. We didn't give our money a destination. We didn't give every dollar a name. You can budget really however you want. I would encourage you to stay within the guidelines of some of those 20% saving, 30% housing. But then the rest of it, really, you can decide where it goes, but just decide it goes somewhere. When you leave money open and blank, it's just going to disappear. It's just going to go different places, right? Maybe you've got credit card debt. I just put in random numbers. Average American student graduates and pays $280 a month in college loans. There's a whole thing on debt that we'll talk a little bit more next week, according to what Dave Ramsey teaches. But go through this, and you can add categories. You can add whatever you want. So I added small business, and we're going to go through some of these in a little bit because these are some of the things that I have to budget for and realize what I'm going to do every month. But here's the problem with what I did. Here's what I problem with what I did. You see all these percentages? This is great. Some of them are great. 20%, that's really the pocket that you want to be in. 32% for the housing is a rough estimate what I put in there. And it shows all of the percentages that I did. But the problem here is this circle is not completed. The circle is not completed, which means that I have not given 100% of my money a destination. I haven't given every single dollar a place to go. Dave Ramsey says, give every one of your dollars a name and it goes somewhere. But the reality is some people budget up to here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. And they budget, but then they miss the last step of making sure that every single dollar has somewhere to go. And when you leave a blank, that money is just going to disappear. You're just going to spend it on something else. We all do this. We're just going to we're going to spend it on something, whatever it may be. We're not even going to realize that it's disappearing, and it's just going to go away. And the reality is, you can spend that money if you want, but if you're keeping an eye on your money, this is just something that you'll do. If you're keeping an eye on your money, you're going to make sure that it's going to places that are worth it. Now, sometimes entertainment is worth it. Now, if you're making $4,000 a month, $2,500 a month in entertainment is probably not a good thing to do, right? But if you're keeping an eye on your money and you're saying, whoa, I'm spending way too much on this, it's going to challenge you. And it's going to make you realize, like, yo, I work way too hard to let my money just disappear. You're going to be like, I mean, I work way too many hours a week to just like not know where my money's going. And the thing that happened to me and my wife when we first did our budget together, after we did this Dave Ramsey thing, we sat down and did this, and we were like, man, we could get rid of this, and that, and not even care. Like, do we really need to be paying for this every month? Like, do we really need Hulu and Netflix and cable? Like, it makes you ask yourselves these questions, and you start chipping away at stuff. You start deleting stuff. And what are you doing? You're instantly giving yourself a raise. Because by not spending money, you're keeping more money. Remember, financial individual success is not about how much you make. It's about how much you spend. So once you start putting a name to everything and then you see it, you're like, I'm getting rid of that. I need to keep this. And then what you can do is maybe you and your wife or you and your girlfriend and just you and your life, maybe you feel like you don't have money to go out with friends as much as you want. You can do that. If you take money away from other places, you can add more money to that. Maybe you're looking at your budget and be like, dude, man, I spent $74 on Starbucks last week. Are you kidding me, dude? Because what do? Here's the habit, right? We just swipe our cards and we don't think about it. We swipe our cards and we don't think about it. And I do use a card. Dave Ramsey teaches a note, like he teaches a cash only kind of thing. That doesn't work for me. I mean, I'm an at-home streamer. I like, to be honest, don't leave my house too often except to go hang out with a friend. And I don't like anything I need to order, I need to buy for my streaming, for me, my ministry, my business. It's all on Amazon. So I can't use cash on Amazon. So that doesn't really work for me too well, but you can do it in other things. But the principle of writing down every single dollar that you spend, what it's going to do is going to keep you accountable to make sure that your money is going to the best places and that it's not being wasted. You work too hard to waste your money. You work way too hard to let your money disappear and have no idea when it's going. When we first did this, I went through my bank statement and there was money coming out from stuff that I had forgotten I signed up for. You know what I mean? Like, wait, what the heck? I didn't know I was paying for this. I thought I canceled it. I'm still paying for this? And when we don't have a budget, we have no idea. Our money is just going wherever it wants to go. And we're not thinking much about it. And then you end up, man, I didn't realize I spent $500 on that stuff last week. And yes, cash is very great if it works for your life. It doesn't work for my lifestyle, unfortunately. But if it works for yours, cash is a great way. But these principles of just having a budget, if you're new, I'm going to put this link in the chat for you. Go ahead and start your budget. Put how much you make and then put it everywhere in places. And then here's the reality. Whatever amount of money that you notice is going unspent, then what do? You just add that to your savings. Add that to your savings every month. Some of you who make around $4,000, you're like, dude, I cannot imagine spending, putting $1,100 towards saving every month. Some of you are like, I wish I could do that. But the reality is, if you give every dollar a destination, then you can. Unless you're in debt, we're going to talk about that more next week, then you got to pay down debt quick. And maybe you could take some away from the savings and put more towards debt. But the reality is, if we give every dollar a destination, this is crucial. It's so simple, but it's a life skill that I'm like, why didn't no one teach me this when I was growing up? Like when I was in college, like studying to be a pastor, why didn't they teach me this? And then, because it's such a life skill that everyone needs, but look up here. Here's what happens. So I want you to go in and put everything that you're spending, okay? Be honest. Don't. If you're spending $100 a month on coffee, don't say you're spending $40. This is only, you're going to see this. Be honest with yourself, because then what it's going to do, let's say rent. Let's just bump that up to $1,200. Look what it says right here. Then you're like, dude, I'm spending more money than I make. This is not good. Like something needs to change. So then what do? You go through and you just delete stuff. But then here's what people do with the housing. Here's what we do with the housing. Well, man, I'm $400 over budget. I just got to take away from my savings account. That on paper works. I'm back down to budget now. But here's what Dave Ramsey says. Live like nobody wants to now, so you can live like nobody can later. I want you, that blew my mind when I heard it. Live like nobody wants to now, so that you can live like nobody can later. Because the reality is, right, between budget and saving, I'm going to add $400 back to my budget and take away $800, take away $400 from my rental. What does that mean now? That means that right now, I can't live somewhere as nice as I'd want it to be. Here's the question. Are you living somewhere that you want to live, or somewhere that you can actually afford to live, because sometimes they're not the same. So what does this mean? That means that right now I'm not living in a place as nice as I'd like it. But if over 10 years, I'm saving an extra $400 a month, over 10, let's do the math. Let's see how much money there's. $400 a month times 12. $57,000? That means so what does that mean? That means that I'm not living somewhere as nice as I want to now. But what it means is I'm going to be able to live somewhere even nicer than I ever could have if I didn't do this later. It's that principle. Live like no one wants to now. No one wants to live in a nicer place than they really want to. Everyone wants to live in, well, I can afford it, so I'm going to live there. The reality is, if you're stressed out and you've got zero money to spare at the end of the month, you can't afford it. You can't afford it. And creating a budget with a 20% savings and a 30% rental, like we have right here, savings. No, this is wrong. I think it was 800. Yeah, 20% savings and around 30%. That's going to make your budget free. That's the only way that you're able to save $800 a month, is if you lower your rent. Then everything else in there you've got to throw in. Everything else in there is going to make more sense. It's a simple process. Just go through, put every dollar you make, and it's going to show you where there's error. If you're like, yo, I'm spending more money than I make, okay, then I've got to make some changes. And then maybe you're like, hey, maybe you're like, let me take away. Maybe you're like, dude, there's a bunch of empty space. Where's that money going? And if it doesn't have a name, you have no idea. You're looking at your savings account, you're like, I'm not putting it in savings every month, so where the heck is it going? We do it. I do it. If I don't have a name for every dollar that I spend, it just disappears. And sometimes I do. Even to this day, sometimes I do that. I'm like, Susie, bro, you just wasted all that money, dude. You spent that much money on coffee last month? Like, you didn't, like, bro, let's bring it back. Because I'm still getting better at this. But the reality is, it doesn't matter about what we're doing now. It matters about what we're going to do next, right? So I want to get better at budgeting. I want to make sure that 100% of my dollars have a destination and that I'm using them well. Because here's the question that I want to ask you today. I'm going to ask you next week. Are you handling your money in a way that makes God proud? And when I ask myself that question, I'm like, dude, there's room for growth, man. There's room for growth, because I want to be able to budget better, but I also want to be able to be responsible with God has given me. And when I'm responsible with God's given me, I'm giving to others. When I am responsible with what God has given me, I am giving to others. This is why in this budget, I have giving. What do you mean? You're just talking about like giving money away? Yeah. To causes, to people, organizations, whatever it may be. Two things that should always be in your budget as a follower of Jesus is tithing, which is 10% of your income. Tithe. So $4,000. Yeah. 400. That's the wrong line. 10%. I promise you, if you want to live with financial freedom and God's blessing on your finances, then we have to tithe. We have to tithe. I promise you, we can't expect God to bless our finances when we aren't being faithful to Him with our finances. And this is crucial. And here's the reality. Some of you that make around this kind of money, you're like, you want me to give away $540 a month? Yeah. Well, this one I would say is a non-negotiable. As a follower of Jesus, it's a non-negotiable. But the giving, some of you are like, $140, that's a lot, dude. And it is. It is. Here's what I would say. In your giving, try to keep your giving around 3 to 4%. So if I get rid of this tithing, the 10% tithing, that's a non-negotiable. But your giving, if you try to keep that around 4%, some of you are like, $140? But then you're like, oh, wait, that's only 4% of my income? Wait, you're only asking me to give away 4% every month? It's not bad. Because when I'm telling you, when everything has a destination, money just makes more sense. Money just makes way more sense when you give it a destination. $140 seems like a lot, but then you're like, wait, but it's only 4% of my monthly income. Okay, that means I still have 96 for myself. Okay, that's not bad, actually. Then you start realizing what a difference you can make. But the only way that you can get to giving 4% of your income a month, if not more, you can give more if you want, then is to have a budget. To have a budget. Look at this. Look at this. I'm able to tithe. I want you to check this out. I'm tithe, right? I'm able to tithe 10%, give 4%, and still every month in savings. This is not my numbers. These are just real numbers, right? So Ralph's able to pay his rent, put $525 away in savings every month, pay all of his bills, groceries, $300 a month, restaurant. So there's some entertainment in here, right? He's going out to eat with friends, $100 a month. He's playing WoW every month. He's buying a new game every month. $150 on entertainment, having fun with friends, $250 in health insurance, which for some of you might be high, $200 in car insurance. He's paying off credit card debt, and he's paying off $280 a month. So you're like, where's all this money coming from? It's just coming from his paychecks. But sometimes we don't feel this way because we don't give our dollars a destination. He's giving away $440 a month, $540 a month, $400 being tithe, $140 just being giving to other things, to people that he wants to give to. He's saving. But all of this is made possible, really, honestly, because of your rent. You can't afford to do any of that stuff. If you're making this much money and you're living in a $1,500 a month, you instantly just went $700. So what do you got to do? What do you got to do? You got to lower your savings. Let's lower the savings by $200. Okay, now we're saving $200 a month, which still isn't bad, but it's not as much as it could be. Right? What's the non-negotiables? You have to pay your minimal credit card debt. You have to pay that. You have to pay your school loans. Tithing as a follower of Jesus is a non-negotiable. So you're forced to not give money anymore. And it's going to tempt you to consolidate your loans, which is a bad idea. And then, look, after I did all that, so what do Christians do? They get rid of, this is the worst idea ever. They get rid of their tithe. People feel like they can't afford to tithe because they have no money. The reality is, it's
Let's
not.
go!
Rise up! Gifted a tier 1 to Solomon 4 months in a row. Solomon, God bless you, girl. Hope you're doing amazing. I want to encourage you this. People say, I don't tithe because I have no money. I would say that you have no money because you don't tithe. It's not that you don't tithe because you have no money. It's that you have no money because you don't tithe. When we are obedient to God and to tithing and giving to Him, I'm telling you, God blesses our finances because we're faithful to Him. And that's what Christians do. Oh, well, I can't afford it. Guess I'm taking my tithe out. That's what we do. But the reality is, one, make this the last thing you take out. God will I promise you, God will supernaturally provide for you. There have been months when I was, just starting out my stream. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, but I'm going to make sure I tithe first. And everything ends up being okay. But here's the reality. All I did was upgrade my living lifestyle to $1,500 a month. And now, all of a sudden, I'm in the red. I'm struggling to tithe. I had to cut my savings by over 50%. If you are just willing to, for a short amount of time, not live somewhere that maybe is not ideal for you, here's the reality. We've got to live. Are you living somewhere that you want to live, or living somewhere that you can actually afford to live? And if we're willing to do that temporarily, it's going to set you up, bro. It's going to set you up. You'll be able to give and do so much more with your money. But I want to talk just for a few more minutes on what it's like to budget as a streamer or as a small business owner, because this is all the money Ralph makes, and this is all of his life expenses. But when you're a small business owner, you also have to pay for your business. As a streamer, you also have to pay for your stream stuff. So for me, I went through and I added under small business all of the things that I pay for every month as a streamer. So one, I pay rent. Why? Because the house that I live in is actually bigger. We still rent on a month-to-month basis. We didn't buy when we moved to Virginia because we were afraid to buy in a brand new state and then not like the area, that kind of stuff. So we're waiting another 2 years to buy a house. But the house that I rent is bigger than I need it to be for me to live in. Why? Because now I also need a home office. I need space for God Squad Church. My wife needs her own office and her own stream room, right? So I've got business-related space in my house that I don't actually need for my personal life, but I need it for my small business for my stream, right? There's graphic things that I need to pay for every month. I pay for the mystery boxes, the shipping of it. If I need to buy a new game on stream, microtransactions, things like skins. I do make it a priority in my month to sub and donate to other streamers so I can get those. Like Ninja, the only way for me to tell Ninja that I'm praying for him is to give him $8. It's the only way. So I do stuff like that. I've got to be saving for new equipment repairs. I'll explain this in a second. Every now and then, I like to, for those that are helping and serving, I like to be able to reward them for their time. I'm going to get into taxes in a second, and then miscellaneous stuff, right? So in all of this, in all of my neural budgeting, if you're a small business owner or a full-time streamer, you're going to have to plan for all of this stuff. Now, you might not have all this stuff, but you're going to have to plan for all of this. Now, obviously, I didn't put in the numbers that I spend, but you're going to have to plan for all this. And here's where the danger of being a small business owner comes. This is why savings is so crucial for small business owners and for full-time streamers, because you never make the same amount of money 2 months in a row. There are months that as a small business owner or a streamer, you're going to have really high months and you're going to have really low months. Obviously, this is something that you guys get to see a little bit of firsthand, where some days my dono goal gets doubled and even tripled, but then there are days where we don't get anything. And I have to plan and budget for that. You have to budget for that as a streamer or a small business owner. 1 month your sales might be way up. 1 month they might be way down. So if you have no money in savings, or you're not planning for savings, what if 1 month you end up making this much? Now what are you going to do? If you're not prepared for it, you're in big trouble. There's a quote I heard once: if you don't prepare, then you have to repair. So if you don't budget every single month for low income months, so you got to put away money every month to make up for that lack. That's why saving is so important. When me and my wife first started streaming, there were months where we got close to nothing, and we needed to be ready for that. And even now, every month, right, we get subs, we get no subs. Perfect example. Someone gifted my wife 50 subs the other day, right? So this month, her stream income is going to be high. What's going to happen at the first day of next month? All those gifted subs, boop, they're going to disappear. So next month's going to be way lower. So if she hits a high number and creates her budget off of that, yeah, come the next month, she's going to be in big trouble. She's going to be in big trouble. So as a small business owner, you need to be ready, because you're going to have low months. It's just the way it is. You're going to have low months. As a streamer, donos aren't going to come in. Your sub count's going to be low. Checkmate, God bless you, man. Good to have you in the stream. Hopefully you're doing absolutely incredible. Pleasure to have you here. And if you don't budget for those things, you're going to be in big trouble. It's just a principle of, if you do not prepare, then you will have to repair. And you're going to find yourself just kicking yourself in the butt, wishing you had prepared for it ahead of time. So if you're a streamer or a small business owner, when you're budgeting for everything, you need a budget for saving for low income months. I'm going to put on top of my savings, I'm going to put in extra. I'm going to put an extra little bit away, because I need to be ready at the end of every month to make sure that if I don't get enough money to pay the bills, I'm prepared for it. This is crucial. There's obviously way more that goes into detail, but you need to prepare for that, budget for that. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. Another thing, as a small business owner or a streamer, you got to remember taxes. Okay, taxes do not work the same for you. You're not going to get a tax return at the end of the month. You're going to have to pay. Not the end of the month, end of the year. You're going to have to pay taxes at the end of the year. You're going to have to pay taxes at the end of the year. So instead of filling out your taxes, oh, it's got a $2,000 return, you're probably going to have to pay $2,000. So every month you've got a budget. I got to put a little bit away. Do the math, check out the percentage of taxes, and then you got to put away for it every month. Here's one thing that I'm actually looking into about doing. I just learned this. I didn't know this before. You can actually pay your taxes on a quarterly basis. I had no idea. I wish someone told me that 3 years ago when I started. You can pay your taxes every quarter. So that way, like every quarter, you're only giving away like a few $100s to the government, rather than all at once, I owe $5,000. You know what I mean? I'm probably going to do that. I haven't done it yet, but I'm probably going to, because that seems a lot less scary for me. But the principle is, as long as you're prepared for a low income month and you're paying your taxes, this is something you're going to be okay with. This is a life skill. This is just a life skill. Budgeting is a skill that us as gamers, us as people, and definitely us as followers of Jesus, we need to learn. Because the reality is, every single one of us deal with money. Right now, you're dealing with money. You're watching the stream, you're spending money. Either one, you're using up your data, you're using your unlimited Wi-Fi, which you paid for. You're using electricity, which you're paying for. Even if you're just sitting on your couch and the lights are off and there's not an ounce of electricity to go in, you're paying rent or mortgage. You cannot avoid spending. Money is a part of life. It's not something we need to avoid. It's not weird. It's not taboo. Let's not make it uncomfortable. It's a part of life. Let's chat about it. Let's talk about it. And having a budget, it saved my life. Saved my life. And yes, E2009, this thing is incredible. And it's so easy to use. All you do, how much money do you make? And then insert what you're spending. And it's going to show you whether you're doing a good job or you're not. I'll be honest. When I first filled this out, I was like, wow, I suck with money. I was like, honey, we are spending way too much money on a bunch of crap that we do not need. Let's get rid of some of it. And we did. We got rid of some of it. We got rid of some of it, and there's still room to grow. There's still room for me to get better. Why? Because I want to, one, be completely out of debt. I've got college loans up the wazoo that many of you got to pay, and I want to encourage you. If you just set a budget, you're going to set yourself up for some serious financial success. Because remember, financial success is not about how much money you make. It's about how much you spend. Even if you're only making, if you do the same thing, I'm going to keep everything else here exactly the same. Because whether you live in a big house or a small house, like your health insurance is probably going to be the same, right? I'm going to cut all this in half. Now, the reality is if you make half of this, you probably can't afford to live on your own, right? I'm not going to touch anything except for the amount of money that I make and the housing that I live in. So if you're making this much money, you're either still living at home or you're with a roommate, right? So here's the reality. Same principle applies. I'm going to save 20%. So if I make $2,000, Ralph only makes $2,000. I'm going to save I'm going to save this, right? Obviously the tithe gets affected off that as well. Let's change some numbers here. So the tithe, that's going to change. We weren't even in that, but we can add that in a little bit. But I'm going to show you how much it really, really relies on the housing you live in. 30% of 2,000 is, so that can't be sick. Oh, just be cut in half, 400. How am I still 935 over budget? What did I do in here? Okay, yeah, so this person needs to cut down on other stuff, right? So Ralph can't afford to spend $150 a month. He could probably only afford to spend $50, right? So it's all percentage-wise. If you cut your income in half, you've got to go through and cut some other stuff in half. It's all percentage-based. Some of this stuff can't change. So, right, he can't afford to be going out that many times a month. He can't afford to do all this stuff. Your life will be so much easier if you just give it $1. If you just give every dollar a destination. If you just give every dollar a destination, you will live in so much more freedom. I'd have to go through and change all these numbers. But some of you are like, well, I don't make $4,000 a month. If you just keep the principle of 30% income, 30% for your housing, it'll make a huge deal. It'll make a huge deal. Then obviously all of these would need to change. But let me show you an example. Let me show you what I mean. The only thing I'm not going to take out is the tithe, because that is mandatory. Right? $2,000. But where do I live? $400 a month in savings. Look at this. Look how much money is still left over. Even though I'm only making $2,000 a month. Ralph's only making $2,000 a month. But he's got so much left over. Why? Because he just knows where everything's going. Yeah, at this point, Ralph's probably eating ramen noodles. He's probably eating ramen noodles. But as long as he's telling his money where to go, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. And I want to encourage you, just get a budget. Get a budget. Sit down. It's going to take you a while. It's going to be annoying. I hate budgeting. It sucks. It's not fun. But can I tell you that it's going to be a huge blessing. Unorthodox, online church tax-free. The church is tax-free. Individuals cannot be tax-free. So I still pay taxes. Every dollar that people give to the stream, I have to pay taxes on. When I'm just a normal person. I'm just a guy. Doesn't matter that I'm a pastor. I'm just a guy. So I gotta pay taxes. But really the principle, guys, is we can go on all day long. Just give every dollar a destination. Get on this site. If you're just popping in, I want to encourage you, get a budget going in your life. There's the link right there. Create an account absolutely free. And then there's other great resources on the site. We're going to talk more about next week how to start off getting an $1,000 emergency fund. These are all great principles Dave Ramsey teaches and ways to do it. I mean, this is incredible. A step-by-step, literally step-by-step, 7 steps to just achieving financial success in your life. Crazy, 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 crazy. I want to encourage you as gamers, man, we like to win in life. We like to win in games. Why not win with our money? If we don't control our money will control us. Your money is going to disappear. You're not going to know where it went. Just keep an eye on it. Tell every dollar where to go. Give every dollar a destination. And I'm telling you, you will be so blessed. Hope you guys have been blessed today by today's Learning Life and Leadership. Next Monday, 3 p.m., we're going to talk more in detail about some good financial habits that I've learned from Dave Ramsey and that I have picked up myself as a small business owner / streamer, because things are a little bit different when you're in that kind of thing. You're both the employer and the employee at the same time. It's a little bit weird. And so come back next week, 3 p.m. Eastern. Going to be incredible. Hope you guys were blessed by this. This is just a normal principle of life that every one of us need to learn. Every one of us need to do. You can't escape it. We use money every day. If money's a part of life, let's make it a normal part of life. Let's learn how to punch it in the face. That's good.